Hello folks, this is Brennan Farguson. I'm a designer and a writer.
And Dave Grossman, lead designer / writer.
And David Bogan, art director.
And Kim Lyons, environment artist.
And Emily Morganti, I'm in marketing.
Don't laugh.
Marketing rocks.
So episode 2, this is the one that is set in a TV station. So long time ago I had the idea that I just wanted to get on TV and become famous. That's all I really wanted to do in life. That dream, of course, was squashed, so I decided let's just make a game about it.
Excellent.
The colon in the middle of the title, as I recall, caused some technical problems with our website, yes?
Yeah, I think
Doug
there were
complained about
problems
it.
as far as what we were going to name the webpage if it had a colon in it. We got over it, though.
It's the little things that get you.
Plus we were just wanting to have the most colons ever in a title, which I'm not sure if we did manage to achieve that. Sam and Max, freelance police, season 1, situation, comedy. Unnecessary, colon.
So we start off each episode with Sam and Max getting a message from the commissioner. How many times can you do that and have it
6.
not
Yeah,
get
6
too
apparently.
boring? So we've got to think of different ways to start off each game. And we thought that them having a standoff with the high noon type feel was a good way to go with this episode.
But this is clearly dastardly.
4 more to go.
That was also, we wanted to reintroduce the idea of the tear gas gun that was actually a leftover inventory item from the previous episode that you use again in this one, and we wanted to make sure that you were reminded of what the function of it was, particularly if you hadn't played the previous episode.
We have a new voice for Max here.
Max has a new voice in this episode. There was a sudden medical emergency with Max's old voice, and we had to recast him basically
I like the thought
on the
that the
fly.
voice is just this independent entity. The voice came down with the cold.
He's all better now, though.
He is all better now.
But both Maxes were great. It was, of course, sad to lose our friend Andrew Chaikin for this episode, but we have William Casson as Max now, and he's doing an absolutely fantastic job. He is a real pleasure to work with in the studio. He's always full of anecdotes, just a really funny guy. I love him.
The voices in general were actually a source of a lot of tension and contention. Before we released the first episode, the fans had 13 years to sort of build up expectations about what the voices were going to sound like from the original LucasArts game and also from the animated series, and it just seemed like no matter what we did, they weren't going to like it. And then we picked some actors that we liked, and we put them out, and people just stopped complaining instantly. They said, "Oh, these guys are good."
I think the way that we kind of eased into it is when we first did the trailer before season 1, I did the voices for Sam and Max, so it was much easier when professionals came in, and we were won over right away because I wasn't cutting it.
But despite your modesty, Dave, your voices are, in fact, outstanding. And your rendition of Hugh Bliss was so inspiring. I knew he was going to make a great character.
Well, and the voices that went out on the original Game Tap trailer, that was both David Nolan, right? Doing Sam and Max.
That's right.
And Sam is voiced by David Nolan throughout the series, and it's amazing to see how he's grown also. It's just if you listen to that trailer and then you listen to episode 6.
He's grown like 3 feet over the course of the season.
Grief, you must put your beloved companion out of his misery.
Whose voice was that? That wasn't Max.
I don't know whose voice it was.
It's awesome. The world of cartoons. You can do anything pretty much, break the rules, and it still seems to work out okay.
Good thing I had my anti-hypnosis helmet.
Well, this was our clever way of exposing the fact that Sam has built the anti-hypnosis helmet into his hat, just so that we wouldn't have to deal with him being able to be hypnotized for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm. So it turns out all these story points, all the cutscenes are just built around these stupid little things that we have to try to make sure everybody understands. And then as the last pass, the polish will say, let's just make it funny while we're here.
And you don't want him to
So this TV studio set is actually, we built this one big environment, like a television studio, and then had all these little sets that could take place inside it. So they actually share some of the geometry, but they do actually, they're completely different environments in the engine. Is that right?
Yes, pretty much. Just added elements to each one.
This puzzle sequence is actually one of my favorite things from the entire season, not because it's enormously more fun than anything else, but just because it was a really interesting design challenge. The title of this episode is Situation Comedy, so we knew that we were going to put them on a sitcom, and we wanted to capture the feel of sort of fear and uncertainty of improvising comedy in front of an audience. And we went kind of back and forth trying to think of all these different kinds of puzzle structures that were going to work, and what we eventually realized would work was to design it backwards from the way that we normally do. Normally we try and give you a very clear goal and give you some tools that have very clear functions and kind of let the player make the leap between those so that you figure out what you're going to do and then you go do it. But this is exactly the reverse. We made the goal kind of hazy, and the functionality of the tools be things that you had to sort of discover by exploration, so that you actually would have to try it a whole bunch of times and fail a bunch of times before you would figure out how it worked and eventually come to the correct solution.
Whatever stuff is really good.
There is a common problem of making the game just only move when the player moves, that the entire world is static. So this is a chance, in the same vein, to make the player have to be more reactive. The whole idea of improvising is I'm not sure what's going to happen, I'm not totally in control, I got to kind of roll with the punches. So here the idea that Mr. Featherly can come in and do things is something that you have to react to. You're not exactly sure what's going to happen. So it makes it have a slightly different feel.
I think this is actually one of the funniest moments in, not this particular moment, but this sequence. This sequence is one of the funniest moments in the entire season. And I hate to say it, but I think a lot of that has to do with the laugh track.
Well,
Yeah, I actually am a really big fan of always having the audience sounds in there. To me, it always just becomes so much funnier when I hear these weird voices from an unseen crowd just hooting and hollering.
This scene seemed very, very unfinished to me without that laugh track, but once it got put in, it just all made sense, and it became
If
that
you
much
watch
funnier.
a sitcom on TV, you kind of have the same feeling nowadays. So you're just so used to them having a laugh track,
Yeah.
it feels incomplete without it.
True.
These guys.
Just go with it.
Kim was showing me one of these TV sets at her desk the other day, and there's a bunch of stuff in there, right, that didn't get in there. You don't see it in
that's
the game?
usually the way due to the limitations of camera movement, but we try to throw in as much as we can in hopes that people can pick up the little things.
But these sets all had boom mics and Bessie's little director's chair, and
I think every environment pretty much had the behind-the-scenes look that maybe...
Right, I mean, one thing that we're struggling with was we have a very limited budget to make new environments with. And so, in the constant struggle for the designers to make something that's achievable, that will not get us killed by the artists. We're looking
very
for
close
tricks
sometimes.
to put more environments than we're really scheduled to be able to make. And this was one of the examples where he said, look, it's really just the same kind of set, but, you know, just the contents of it are different every time, that's all. Yeah, sorry, Dave Bogan, you were fooled. Haha. Because we got it made in the end.
I think my favorite part about this set is the painted birds on the back set behind the window that do not move.
We've got another contestant.
This is one of those sequences where I like to put in a bunch of stuff that's just for fun. It doesn't matter what you do, and the ingredients of the cake or soup that you're making are like that. It's just, you can put in anything, and all that matters is that you make a cake, and that throws a lot of people for a loop. They're like scouring through the ingredients, looking for the right one, trying to figure out what to do.
Right, we ended up putting in lots of lines like, there's absolutely no fruits or vegetables on the set at all. Just to keep driving home. Do not be looking for that.
This, Who's Never Going to Be a Millionaire actually used to be a little bit more complicated of a puzzle originally. There were 2 sets of cards, I think, and you were going to swap out one set for the questions here on the show, and then you were going to take the questions from the show and swap them out for the lyrics of the guy on the American Idol show. and we ultimately just sort of cut half the puzzle because it was doing the same thing again. It didn't really add very much, but it made a lot of work for us as far as the implementation was concerned.
Hold on. Can you buy deep fried?
The director here is played by Diane Nola. She is a very, very funny lady. It's I just love the way that she intones words to me. Is just so amusing. Her audition for the director to me was one of those moments where I was listening and I said, "Oh my goodness, this episode is going to be awesome." And then she just came in and reads everything in such a funny way.
It's putting quite a bulge in mine.
Another thing I'd like to talk about is by using reoccurring characters, not only can you improve on their animation sets and their acting capabilities, but also you get to watch the voice actors develop. And for the most part, I think the characters have made kind of leaps and bounds from episode to episode, getting to know the character that they're playing and just improving on their overall acting.
Darn it! He'd better not be going to see Myra. Well, anyway, we can't wait. We'll just have to finish the show with
For example.
That never fails.
three on go.
He kind of sounded like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, the timeout for number 2 bit was pretty much something we knew from the beginning of episode 1 that we'd have to have that somewhere, and it just seemed fitting. Saying as with the environment budgets, where we have a limited number of characters that we can make as well, so we're always trying to find ways to, if a character seems like he would fit in the story, then we see if we can put him in there. And it did seem kind of appropriate to have these kind of washed up former child stars show up here at this reality show. So there they are.
The funniest thing about that is that there was no reaction from Specs. His glasses broke.
I'm blind.
And I don't know if that was done on purpose or not, but it actually works to our advantage, I think.
I do love things where people just have no expression. They just sit there for a moment and stare straight ahead.
We had fans asking if Sam was going to get to play his banjo before this episode came out, and I posted on the forum, maybe he will, and there was all this backlash from people. Oh, that's such a typical marketing answer. So Jake took a screenshot of that and kind of doctored it up so you could just barely see that Sam was playing a banjo.
But that doesn't mean we're ready to pack it in. We've got this.
For this episode, we had a contract writer, Jeff Lester, come in and help us, and he worked on this part, and I think he did a brilliant job bringing the character of Myra, the motherly and yet sharp-edged bite to her advice.
Hold the hayride, little pal.
That thing that she just used to move the microphone with actually is indicative of the kind of disconnect that there occasionally is between the idea and the execution, where we thought up this whole puzzle where Myra moves the microphone around to different positions on the desk without thinking about the fact that the desk is actually kind of large and Myra's arms are actually too short to do that. So I think, Dave, that was your idea, to just give her a little reachy thing that she could use to...
It's pretty much her only option, unless she was to do a cartwheel across the desk and pick up something and then
Fantastic.
do another one to get back in her chair.
And why didn't we do that?
Yeah.
Well,
Shouldn't have said that.
because...
I wanna make the director's
Well, I don't know. I don't know why we didn't do that.
I'd like to mention my pal Sam and something that happened the other day.
This is also one of those scenes where the characters just kind of have to follow the rules. It's like we've designed this so that you can't do the thing that would be natural to you as a human being, which would be just get up and force your way across the room and grab that teddy bear and toss it out. We just sort of wave our hands in the air and say, no, you're on TV now. You have to follow the rules of a television talk show, which is that you sit down where the host tells you to and you do not move from there.
At the risk of making the obvious comment, that was shocking. Is she breathing?
A little, but the creepy teddy bear is toast.
Nuts. I wanted to ask it a few questions, and maybe use it to hypnotize Katie Couric.
So for this part, I actually did not imagine that Myra would be electrocuted. Was not really trying to, make anybody die who was innocent in this game. But at the end, we see that she's really all right.
Cases in a row involving hypnotic mind control?
Complete coincidence?
Yes,
I remember someone telling me that she gets electrocuted. But
No, it's
I don't know who it was.
We didn't mean to death.
Maybe someone planted that in my head or something. I don't know. But
No, it works well for the cartoony end to this thing. I do like it as the punchy ending as long as we do get this moment here.
It's funny, and that's all that matters. And she's alive. You can see she wiggles her
twitches,
fingers,
yeah.
and she's shaking her head, and her eyes open.
We always have these nice little teasers for what's coming in the next episode.